This is what Barack Obama is really about, and more people are seeing that, and even the people with their eyes closed, I don't want to know, shut up, are going to have to face it eventually. This is the guy behind Barack Obama, or one of the key men behind Barack Obama. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who is a massive insider within this network I'm talking about, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. How ironic he stands here and contemplates that Barack Obama is now sending thousands more troops into Afghanistan to overcome the problem. Ah, really? Well, his best mate here, who picked him up in the 80s and with others has brought him through to be president, it was always planned, has gone public some years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, in a Paris magazine, admitting that when he was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, he decided that he wanted, in his words, to give the Soviet Union their Vietnam. So what he then did was, own words, he funded and trained what were called freedom fighters, became known as the Mujahideen, in Afghanistan, to start causing trouble for the government in Kabul, the capital, which at that time was a satellite government of the Soviet Union. What he was doing was trying to entice the Soviet Union to, his words, to invade Afghanistan and then become embroiled in a Vietnam-type endless war that they couldn't win, as other people have found in Afghanistan. And that's what the Soviet Union did. And they were there for about 10 years, and never mind the Russians who died, 1 million Afghans died, and this guy thought, well, that's not a problem, own words, because it gave them their Vietnam and brought them down as a superpower. This is how these people think. And now the man who created the Mujahideen, funded and trained them, which then became the Taliban, and the guy Osama bin Laden was brought out of Saudi Arabia to front up that Mujahideen resistance to the Soviet invasion. The man who started all that going, because he's asset, bin Laden, absolutely, totally convinced he's dead. I mean, you know, no one ever talks about him anymore, do they? Isn't it funny? Brzezinski, the man who started it all, is the guy, or one of the key guys behind Obama, who's now saying we've got to put the thousands of troops into Afghanistan to stop the Taliban. Have a word with your mate. And Brzezinski talks about this area. He's been talking about this area for a long time. He calls it Eurasia. And he says that to control the world, in effect, in simple terms, you need to control Eurasia. This area of land that includes key places like Afghanistan, Iran, the places around the Caspian Sea, this great area of oil and gas reserves like Georgia, where they've been having problems recently, Pakistan, and all this area which so much of the world is now focusing on, is this area of the world going up into Russia. And Brzezinski seems to have a morbid genetic hatred of Russia for some reason, and that's what we're seeing. And Henry Kissinger is now being used by Obama, officially anyway, to negotiate stuff with the Russians, which is, you know, it's like sending an atom bomb to a peace conference. And this guy, of course, Henry Kissinger, is one of the most blatant and high-profile manipulators for this Illuminati in the last 40 to 50 years. And Brzezinski, in 1973, with David Rockefeller, set up one of the key organizations in the Illuminati network, at one level anyway, called the Trilateral Commission. That's how much of an insider he is. And this is the network. It's around a secret society called the Round Table. It goes down to the start, just before the start of the 20th century. And these groups, like the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, which manipulates the environmental movement, get to that later, Royal Institute of International Affairs in London, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations in America, the United Nations, all these connect into that secret society. And Brzezinski is a major player to the point where he co-founded the Trilateral Commission. This is the guy behind Barack Obama. And this is what he wrote in 1970, Brzezinski. The technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance on over every citizen and maintain up-to-date complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. 1970. This has been planned for a long, long time, which is unfolding apparently spontaneously now. And when you look at Obama's policies, all you need to do is look at Brzezinski's books before anyone had heard of Obama. This is what he wrote in a book before Obama ran for president. Needed social reassessment can be encouraged by deliberate civic education that stresses the notion of service to a higher cause than oneself. As some have occasionally urged, a major step in that direction would be the adoption of an obligatory period of national service for every young adult, perhaps involving a variety of congressionally approved domestic or foreign good works. Barack Obama. Policy. Obama will call on citizens of all ages to serve America by developing a plan to require 50 hours of community service in middle school and high school and 100 hours of community service in college every year. Watch this in Australia. I don't know if they're trying to do this here, but they will, because they're talking about it now in Britain, and they want this everywhere. This is the policy continued, Obama's policy. We cannot continue to rely on our military in order to achieve the national security objective we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded. They want to create in every country civilian security networks to police the people policing the people. And they'll start to suggest it everywhere. He's just the guy who's triggering it in America. And because of his worldwide kind of fame, he has an ability to sell it in other countries as well. So it's not just Brzezinski. This guy, George Soros, is a notorious Illuminati manipulator, not least in financial terms, and he's one of the major funders and backers of Obama as well. And his networks were behind the spontaneous public revolutions in Ukraine and Georgia, after which, like in Georgia, Brzezinski and Soros put their puppet, this guy, Saakashvili, on the throne as president. He's also fundamentally connected to this guy, Tony Rezko, who's currently in jail for corruption. They did a land deal together, and he was one of the major funders of his political career. And he was put in jail for so controlling the political system of Chicago that when business people wanted to do business with the state, he was asking for them to pay him a fee to allow them to do work and business with the state when he officially had nothing to do with the state. He's in prison for it now. These are the kind of people Obama's around. This guy, William Ayres, Bill Ayres, was, as admitted, being involved in doing terrorist bombing through a group called the Weathermen a few decades ago, back in the 60s it was, and Obama's political career was started in this guy's house with another associate from the Weather Underground that was back in the 60s planting bombs in America. He's fundamentally connected to this organization called ACORN, which is now being prosecuted by a stream of American states for producing fake representations for voting registrations. And of course, the people they were falsely voting would be falsely voting for him, and he's fundamentally connected to them. It's a deeply corrupt organization, and appropriately, Obama is closely connected to it because he's actually a deeply corrupt man. That's how you prosper in Chicago. He goes with the territory. And the other thing, I wonder if the Keystones are writing this down. You write this down, because where I'm going to now. Around, because it's about time someone bloody said it.